Hello and welcome to a post-match reaction to the Sunwolves versus the Waratahs. The Waratahs came out on top 50-29 in the end, and in what looks like fairly blustery conditions. I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, and joining me this evening is Hugh. How are you doing, sir?
I'm well, thank you, and a happy National Beer Day to you.
Is it? Oh, I didn't know that.
Indeed.
Oh, if I'd known, I'd have
call it to celebrate.
Well, it's National Beer Day for me tomorrow because I'm off to Mike's Brewery tomorrow. So for those of you who follow me on Twitter, you'll have seen me drinking in their beer, and I'm going to my first time ever get to visit their brewery. So that's going to be good. Looking forward to that.
Outstanding.
Absolutely. So big congratulations to Curtly Beale to start off with, becoming the most capped Waratah back ever, overtaking Horn, I think they said, at the beginning of the game. And Joel, welcome on the live chat, says, feels good when you have Naravoro on your fantasy team. And he had a big game today, didn't he?
He sure did. And certainly the game plan looked to be to get it to him as often as possible.
And I've been impressed that actually, because he lasted the full game this time. We've seen him in the last couple of games where he hasn't lasted the full game. And it's clearly he's coming into getting a bit of fitness as well, because we all know his power, but it's been his sort of can he last 80 minutes has been a bit of a problem over the last few games. Absolutely.
It wasn't until he was forced to turn and chase and made what was quite a poor attempt at a tackle, really, that his deficiencies were showing up. Apart from that, he was fantastic.
He was, and one of the points that so Richard Freeman, who was on the sideline doing sideline commentary, said he talked to Jamie Joseph beforehand, and Jamie Joseph said they'd be looking at trying to put the little chips through to turn the players, and I thought that would be targeted at Naravoro, but in some ways Newsom got targeted more that way than Naravoro did, and also made a mess of it.
Yeah, I thought Newsom had quite an ordinary game. Actually, it's a tough gig coming in and replacing Folau, but even in attack, I thought in the second half until he, I thought he took some poor options in attack as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't think. I thought he had a poor game. Just because we're talking about Naravoro, I've just spotted this stat. I've got to say this one. So he had to try and make 5 tackles in this game. How many of them do you think he made, and how many do you think he missed?
Oh, I actually don't remember seeing him make one. He might have made one, missed 4 then.
To get him spot on, yes, made 1 tackle, missed 4 in Naravoro. Wow. So very good with ball in hand, not so great defensively this week. But he did spark the first try, got a bit of space on halfway, got past the first player, and once he's going, he's very difficult to stop. And he got the offload and try early doors.
Oh, it was a sensational offload, actually. So not only did he beat, I think, 2 defenders, and then when the 3rd defender came across and got him, it was a great offload to Foley, and then a nice pass to Gordon, who, like all good halfbacks, was running that support line down the centre of the field, and easy try. I was happy because he's actually on my fantasy team, so seeing him score twice felt pretty good.
Well, I think they mentioned actually also that he's the top try scorer in the National Rugby Championship. Now, they did say in commentary the top try scorer ever, and I was like, it's only been going for 3 years, so let's make this too big a deal. But yes, so yeah, Gordon definitely knows his way to the try line. That's for certain. The Sunwolves came back nicely. It was interesting seeing them tapping and going even in their own 22, but then opting for a scrum in the Waratahs 22 rather than going for the line-outs, and saw Little going over. They did that quite a bit this evening, didn't they, choosing the scrum over the penalty.
They did. I thought it was interesting to contrast how the Tars played with the wind in the first half and the Sunwolves played into the wind, and then in the second half, vice versa. As you say, the Sunwolves were very reluctant to kick in the first half. They took a lot of quick taps. They were taking the scrum options from penalties and short arms, whereas the Tars in the second half were far more willing to kick it. When the Tars had the wind, Foley and Gordon as well did a lot of kicking, but the Sunwolves didn't really play that game so much when they had the wind in the second half. It was interesting.
It was interesting, and when we saw that the Waratahs could kick in the second half. It did ask beg the question as to was the wind as strong as it was being made out to be? Because they got some decent kicks off. Sure, Foley had a bit of problems kicking sticks, but kicking from hand didn't seem to be overly impacted by the wind.
It didn't. I mean, having said that, one of the kicks that Beale did in the first half from basically under his own post went a mile, and I didn't see anything like that from the Sunwolves in the second half. So I'm not sure. Maybe it died down a bit in the second half, or as you say, it just wasn't quite as strong as was made out to be.
Yeah, or maybe it was blustery as well. There was that one. So yeah, it could have been a blustery day. The Sunwolves' discipline in this game was very good, but they did give up a penalty, which was kicked for 3 fairly early on. And then Rona went through a gap, and everyone just seemed to just stand off him and just let him run over the try line. I thought that was probably the best game I've seen Rona play, but I thought he got a bit of an easy ride for that try.
I agree. I thought Rona had an excellent game, and I'm jumping ahead a bit here, but in the second half especially, I thought Foley was quite static and was just kind of standing and shoveling it on, and Rona was one of the few people that was actually taking it forward and threatening the line. He had a great game. Yep,
no, it's the best game I've seen him play. I thought I still think he got lucky with that run, and that the players stood off him. And then the Sunwolves did what they seem to do every game, which is give an easy try. They passed the ball, dropped onto the ground. 3 forwards then managed to run it in from 40 metres out, which was impressive athleticism from the forwards there to get through. I think it was Hannigan first got the ball.
Yep.
And before releasing, who was number 6?
I think it was Hannigan to Fitzpatrick to Will Miller.
That's right. Yep. And then Will Miller showed some good legs to get himself under the sticks. And at 14:24 on 24 minutes, sorry, at 7:24 on 20 minutes, it looked like it was going to get out of hand very quickly then for the Sunwolves.
Yeah, I thought the Tars played really well in that first 20 minutes or so, and like they did in the second half against the Rebels, everything seemed to be going their way. All the passes were sticking, and then things seemed to change very quickly.
They did. Little threw a little dummy in his own 22, and then nearly went the whole way, but just got caught before the end, but managed to get the ball away. So that was the. So they did get that. They did get a try back then, followed up with a penalty as well, because the Tars' discipline in this game was pretty poor. They lost Hooper to the bin in the second half, but they gave up a lot of 14 penalties. There we go.
14-3 was the penalty count,
which was just atrocious by the Tars in this game.
It was, yeah. And going back to that little try, that dummy that he sold was absolutely outrageous on his own line. I think it was Will Miller actually that missed the tackle that fell for the dummy. So he had a very good game though, Michael Little. He was definitely their best player.
Miller played well. I thought also their wingers also played well without necessarily getting the reward for their efforts. Matizira, particularly 10 carries for 106 metres. I thought he played pretty well. Little 12 carries at 122 metres. Now, 60 of those metres or 70 of those metres were within one carry, admittedly. But I thought those two players played well. As you say, Little was a commanding and leadership presence in that back line, which I thought was good.
Yeah, I think that was one of the other tackles that Nairavoro missed. Actually, was on Little when he made that run.
Probably was. I saw Nairavoro try to do some sort of attempted tap on one of the Sunwolves. You're like, mate, you're twice his size. Just get hold of him. Don't try these. You don't need to do little tap tackles with his ankles. No.
And he was almost standing next to him. It was ridiculous. I actually thought, going back to that try where Little ran 80 metres or 90 metres, whatever, I actually thought the last pass looked a little bit dodgy. Do you remember? I thought it looked forward, 1.5 to 2 metres actually.
I'm not sure. I think it was that far forward, but there were a number of passes in this game which, some were given as forward passes and some weren't. So it can be
forward. backwards out of the hand, one of those ones.
I hate that. I just where the ball goes. I understand all this idea of momentum and all this kind of stuff, but just throw it further backwards then if it's going to go forwards with momentum. Very simple, in my view. But there you go. We then saw the Tars reassert their dominance. Gordon went over from the back of a scrum, pretty similar to the Sunwolves. I think we saw Sunwolves do something similar from a scrum as well. And then a very poor Sunwolves line out, and it was a poor line out all game. Gave the Tars possession and territory for a try on half time. And at 17:38, the big question was how many points is that wind worth? And the answer was not very many.
No, I mean, at certain points you would have said, and then the way the commentators were talking, you would have said it was a 15 to 20 point breeze, but who knows?
Yeah, I think the Sunwolves didn't, and I think that the Tars, by scoring that line-out maul try in at the very beginning of the second half, at that point I basically switched off and went, yeah, I did not literally switch off, but I mentally switched off and went, yeah, this game's now over. I can't see the Sunwolves coming back from this, and I think that really was the nail in the coffin. Was the line-out maul, because the Sunwolves hadn't got their line-out working. They never managed to get any mauls going, and it showed that the Tars could grind it out if they needed to. It
was a good try, actually, I thought, and a good option to kick for touch and take the line out, and then come up with the points. And as you say, it would have psychologically would have made a big difference, I think.
Yep, because the Tars then didn't actually score again until the what was it then? And then until about the 70 odd minute, 74 minutes. So they had nearly half an hour of not scoring. In that time, the Sunwolves managed to get two tries. One of them actually, sorry, this is where the scrum try came in. The first off, there was a great break and footwork by the winger that we talked about, and Nairovora's attempted tackle.
That was after, I think the ball must have been in play for 5 or 6 minutes, and it looked like the Tars were going to score, actually. Nairovoro made another great run, and he had Gordon sitting on his right-hand shoulder on the inside, and he didn't pass, and then they turned it over, and then I think the Sunwolves actually might have turned it over again at one point before they...
then Beale had a bit quick run and lost the ball. Yep.
That's right.
It was there were some long passages of playing this, and the commentators made some good points that the Sunwolves did a good job of trying to control the pace of this game. When they had the ball, they were taking lots of quick tap and goes. They were taking lots of quick line outs. They were kept the pace up, and then when they didn't want to, at other times they would just hold on to the ball and slow things down to let their guys get back organised. And yeah, there was some clever play by the Sunwolves that we don't perhaps give them appreciation for. I think we're seeing Jamie Joseph's influence on this side in the fact that their whilst their individual skill level may not be high enough to really really challenge and get many wins in this competition, but their game management and their thinking about it, I think is top notch.
They played well in parts, that's for sure. And I thought that, it looked like the Tars were kind of slipping back into the way that they played against the Jaguares, where they just were throwing it wide with no real plan or reason behind it. There was very little go forward. As I said, Foley was just standing there and shoveling it out, and none of the forwards were providing much go forward either. And they'd go for 5 or 6 phases, and then the Sunwolves would either get the penalty or get the turnover. And they got a little bit of momentum. They got the crowd into it, and they did well to at times really stay in touch. And even though the Tars scored 50 points, I must be honest, I never really felt totally comfortable. I thought that the Sunwolves were always still a chance the way that they were playing.
Well, yeah, so I was saying at half time when they were 11 points up, it felt like this could turn round, and part of that was because of the wind. But when you think about the number of turnovers conceded, the Sunwolves conceded 18 turnovers to only 6 by the Waratahs, which just shows their ball handling wasn't really up to it, and which meant that the Tars had 11 scrums in this game, which shows you how poor the handling was. And their tackling was only at 68% as well. So there were definitely opportunities that probably a lot of those defenders beaten will be, I think I saw the other stat that was 10 by Naravoro. So maybe 10 of those tackles are missed on Naravoro, but there's still, they missed nearly 30 tackles, which is just unforgivable at this level. They're not, with that, if you're turning over that often and you're missing that many tackles, you're going to give up a lot of points.
And probably 5 or 6 of those turnovers were straight from the line out as well. Certainly, the Tars' lack of discipline would have helped keep them in the game as well.
Absolutely. I mean, as we said, we talked about this. That giving up 15 penalties to 3 meant that the Sunwolves should have had territory and possession, but because their line out was misfiring, they couldn't take proper advantage of that discipline.
So I think possession and territory were pretty even at half time and still pretty even at full time, actually. Probably just to the Tars.
Yep, just the Tars, 54% on both of those to the Tars and 46 to the Sunwolves. The try off the scrum was when Hooper was yellow carded for not releasing, and if you're giving up 15 penalties, you expect to give up a yellow card as well. That number's just too big. But apart from that, the Tars managed that 10 minutes very well and scored a try. It was only the second score in the half was while Hooper was off, giving Naravoro one-on-one, a little bit of space, and once he'd taken 3 or 4 steps, no one was going to stop him, were they?
You'd almost put your house on it, wouldn't you?
He had a very big game. I know we're going on about him, or I am anyway, because he made 184 meters running, which is crazy numbers. Anyone who does 100 is considered good, and that's his 3rd game on the trot where he's done 100 running meters with the ball in hand. He only scored 1 try today rather than 2 in the last 2 games, so that's. But he definitely made a couple as well.
And it's interesting though, with the type of winger that he is, and the number of times he got the ball and the number of meters that he made. It's not as if he comes in off his wing and takes balls off the 9 or the 10 or the 12. It's all getting passed out to him. He's out wide.
He is out wide. There's lots of the commentators were saying, look, I'd like to see him running off Foley and because he always makes it over the game line because he's so big. Yes, true. I do think fitness is an issue for him. I think if you ask him to have a higher work rate, he's not going to last the game. So part of the reason he could last 80 minutes is because he just sits out there on the wing and doesn't come and find work. So I think if he came and find work, he would be, he just wouldn't last the pace. He's moving that size of body around takes an awful lot of effort.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Same here. But he was the only person to get over 100 meters in the Tars. Rona was the next with 85 meters. So he ran nearly 100 meters more than the next person. We've talked about little Mazuawe. Oh, I hope. Sorry about that. But the other player that played pretty well was Hino, number 8, for the Sunwolves. I thought had a good game as well.
Yeah, he's a strong player.
Strong player, got through a bunch of work as well. The defending, we're going to call out a few players, but Lemeki missed 5 tackles. The fullback, Mati Sumia, missed 6 tackles. And there were definitely some tries where I thought that there was some very poor tackling. The one I'm thinking of Gordon's try from off the scrum, I think it was that one, or where one of Gordon's tries, the fly half comes across and doesn't basically wafts his hand at the player as a try scored rather than trying to get underneath the ball, as we saw from the Tars at the end of the game. And I think, defensively, there are a number of players in that Sunwolves back line that need to learn how to do a lot of work, really.
As you alluded to earlier, though, I'm assuming that Lemeki and Matsushima's misses were mostly on Naravoro.
Probably, that's true, to be fair. On the other side of it, Beale made 6 tackles but missed 5. So he's a bit hit. He tends to rush out up the line and go high, which means it sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. But Wells got through a lot of work at number 8, making 11 tackles. So he was the top tackler on the Tars side of things. And as we said, Curtis Rayner again, he was also very good defensively in that back line. So
he's been a big improver. I think Curtis Rayner, he could be a real player of the future for the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, he's an ex-league player, isn't he?
He is, from the Canterbury Bulldogs.
So I think he's still learning his trade.
For sure.
In Union. Any other players you want to? Otherwise, I think I've covered all the things I was going to talk about for this game.
No, I think that's it. It was interesting that Jay Gordon came off at the end with what looked like a sore calf. They're saying that Nick Phipps should be ready for next week if Gordon's injured. Phipps was playing club rugby today in Sydney. Not sure if Bryce Hegarty coming off at halftime was due to an injury or not, but that'll be interesting to find out because he's been playing well the last few weeks.
He has, yep. I think Newsom's the one person in that back line that's got to think of whether he's actually going to get another game or not. Everyone else, I think, were pretty good.
Yeah, and Fekete was pretty good when he came on. I think could probably look at playing him at 14 instead of Newsom.
But he came on and played 12, didn't he?
He did. They did a bit of a reshuffle.
So yeah. I'm not sure if they see him as a winger really, and trying to oust Beale is pretty much impossible, I think. So that's going to happen. As you say, Shoot Shield has kicked off in Sydney. Have you kept a one eye on that or not yet?
Not yet. Non-Suburbs and Warringah was the televised game, which is a replay of last year's grand final. But I recorded that and I'll watch that at some other point over the weekend. Didn't see any of the other scores either.
Cool. Yeah, I've not looked at the scores yet, but I have. This is my first year where I'm actually playing doing the prediction league for Shoot Shield. I'm doing it purely on names as I don't know anything about it. But we'll give it. So, yeah, don't expect any prediction videos for Shoot Shield coming out anytime soon.
Right.
But I am giving it a go, trying to keep an eye on it this year for the first time.
Good.
So. Hugh, why don't you let people know where they can get in touch and chat rugby with you during the week as well?
Sure, happy to chat on Twitter. My handle is hef0909.
And I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, so at DrivingMaul on Twitter, or comments down below. Please do subscribe to the red box there, or my face will be there on the recording, latest video in a box there and all that kind of stuff. I'll be back after the Chiefs Blues game with post-match reaction and after the Brumbies Reds game with post-match reaction, so join me for those.